There comes a moment in every life when the storm within roars louder than the noise outside, a moment where anger burns like fire, where sadness feels like an anchor, where fear whispers that you are not enough. These emotions, left unchecked, will chain you, blind you, and drag you into places you were never meant to go. But understand this, you are not a prisoner of your feelings. You are not a victim of your mind. You were given power greater than the storm. You were given the ability to master it. Emotions are natural. They are signals, messengers, waves that rise and fall. But when you allow them to take the driver's seat, they will steer you toward regret, toward decisions you will wish you could erase. How many relationships have been broken because someone spoke in anger? How many dreams have been abandoned because fear convinced someone to stop? How many lives remain unfulfilled because people let sadness and doubt become their identity? You see, the danger is not in feeling. It is in surrendering control. To master your emotions is not to silence them, but to understand them. That is to listen without being led, to feel without being enslaved. When anger comes, ask, what lesson is hidden here? When fear grips you, ask, what challenge is it preparing me for? When sadness falls upon your shoulders, ask, what depth of strength is being carved inside me? The truth is, emotions are not your enemy. They are tools. But tools can build or destroy, depending on the hand that wields them. Think of the strongest people you admire. Do you know what sets them apart? It is not that they feel less. It is that they rise above what they feel. They don't let temporary storms decide permanent paths. They choose discipline when anger demands rage. They choose courage when fear demands retreat. They choose hope when despair demands surrender. That is mastery. That is power. That is freedom. Every time you master your emotions, you are shaping a greater destiny. You are writing a future where you, not your impulses, decide who you will become. And the more you practice this mastery, the less the storm controls you, and the more you command the seas of your life. So stand firm. The next time anger burns, let patience answer. When fear whispers, let faith speak louder. When doubt rises, let determination silence it. This is your life, and your emotions are meant to serve you, not enslave you. Emotions are powerful forces, but they are not dictators. You must recognize that emotions are signals, not commands. Too often, people treat every emotion that arises within them as if it were a final verdict, as if the anger that flashes across the heart is a direct order to lash out, or the fear that creeps into the mind is a command to retreat. But emotions were never meant to be chains. They are simply messages, indicators, whispers of the inner self, telling you something about your state, your environment, or your needs. When anger arises, it signals that a boundary has been crossed, or that injustice has touched your spirit. When fear rises, it signals that risk or danger might be present. When sadness falls upon you, it signals that something you valued is missing or lost. They are not commands, they are notifications. The problem begins when you start mistaking those notifications as orders you must obey. Imagine for a moment if every time your body felt hunger, you treated it as a command to eat endlessly. Imagine if every time you felt tired, you laid down regardless of the circumstance, regardless of the work unfinished, regardless of the dream unbuilt. You would never move forward, never achieve, never overcome. Hunger is a signal. It tells you that your body needs fuel, but you decide what to eat, when to eat, and how to nourish yourself. Fatigue is a signal. It tells you the body requires rest, but you decide whether to press through, to recharge, or to pause. In the same way, emotions are signals. It is your responsibility to decide how to respond to them. This shift in perspective is what separates the strong from the weak, the grounded from the scattered. The weak see emotions as masters. The strong see emotions as messengers. When you feel anger, you don't have to explode. You can observe it, acknowledge it, and ask yourself why it showed up. When you feel fear, you don't have to run. You can analyze it, question it, and determine whether it's protecting you or limiting you. When you feel sadness, you don't have to sink into despair. You can honor it, reflect on it, and use it to deepen your understanding of what truly matters to you. Every person who has achieved greatness has learned this truth. The ability to interpret emotions correctly is the key to not being controlled by them. They knew that anger can be transformed into fuel for justice, fear can be transformed into courage, sadness can be transformed into compassion. But this transformation is only possible if you first stop treating emotions like orders. You must learn to pause, to separate the message from the reaction. Because once you realize emotions are simply signals, you take back the power to choose your response. Think of the times you regret most in your life. Were they not often moments when you acted purely on emotion? Times you spoke words in anger that could not be taken back. Times you walked away in fear when courage could have changed everything. Times you stayed in sadness so long that you missed opportunities for growth. Now think of the moments you are proud of. Were they not times when you rose above what you felt? When you decided not to be enslaved by the signal but to act on wisdom instead? That is the essence of mastery. Understanding that emotions are not dictators, they are reminders that you are alive, that you care, that you are engaged with life. Once you embrace this perspective, every emotion becomes a chance for strength. Anger is no longer a fire that burns you. It is a torch you can use to light your path. Fear is no longer a cage. It is a compass pointing to the edges of your growth. Sadness is no longer a weight. It is a teacher of resilience. But all of this begins with the recognition that emotions are signals, not commands. There is a difference between reacting and responding, and that difference can shape the course of your life. Reaction is immediate, impulsive, and often destructive. It is the strike of lightning that lights up the sky for a moment but burns everything it touches. Response, on the other hand, is measured, thoughtful, and powerful. It is the steady flame of a lamp that guides your path through the darkness. The moment between stimulus and reaction is where your greatest strength lies. The pause, that brief space where you can choose not to be a slave of your emotions, but a master of them. Think of the countless conflicts in the world that could have been avoided if someone had paused before reacting. A heated argument that spirals into broken relationships. A rash decision made in anger that leads to regret. A fearful retreat that kills a dream before it has a chance to live. Most mistakes are not the result of thinking too much, but of not thinking at all, of reacting in the heat of emotion without pausing to consider the consequences. When you pause, you regain power. You remind yourself that your emotions are not the ruler of your destiny. Anger may scream at you to lash out, but the pause allows you to breathe, to see the situation clearly, and to ask, what will my reaction cost me? Fear may beg you to run away, but the pause allows you to stand still, to measure the challenge, and to ask, what will my retreat steal from me? Sadness may invite you to give up, but the pause allows you to reflect, to understand the source of your pain, and to ask, what can I learn from this moment? That pause transforms impulse into wisdom, and wisdom into strength. Imagine carrying a shield into battle. Every time emotions strike, your pause is the shield that absorbs the blow before you decide your counter. Without that shield, every strike cuts you down. With it, you have the chance to choose your move, to conserve your energy, to win the war without losing yourself. Life is not about winning every fight that anger starts, or running from every shadow fear casts. It's about choosing the battles that matter and fighting them with clarity, not chaos. The pause also creates space for empathy. In anger, you may want to wound with words, but when you pause, you give yourself a moment to see the humanity in the other person. In fear, you may want to protect yourself at all costs. But when you pause, you recognize that growth only comes when you step into discomfort. In sadness, you may want to isolate, but when you pause, you realize that connection may be the very thing that heals you. Great leaders, wise thinkers, resilient souls, they are not without emotion. They feel just as deeply as anyone else. But their secret is the pause. They refuse to hand control of their destiny over to a fleeting feeling. They know that while emotions come and go like waves, their choices carve the shoreline of their life. Every time you pause before reacting, you are training your mind to rise above the storm. You are rewiring your habits, building a fortress of patience, self-control, and discipline. You are turning chaos into clarity, confusion into direction. That pause may last only a few seconds, but those seconds hold the power to change your future. For it is not the first thought or feeling that defines you. It is the choice you make after the pause. Your emotions will not bow to you simply because you wish them to. Mastery does not come by chance. It comes by training. Just as an athlete trains the body, you must train the mind. Just as a warrior sharpens the blade, you must sharpen your awareness. Without discipline, emotions will control you. Without self-awareness, you will not even realize when they've taken the reins. Discipline and self-awareness are the foundation upon which emotional mastery is built. Discipline is the daily practice of choosing control over chaos. It is waking up each day and committing yourself to be the ruler of your inner world, no matter how loud the storm outside may rage. Discipline teaches you not to act on the first wave of feeling, but to endure it, study it, and redirect it. Consider the soldier who trains every morning not because there is a battle today, but because he knows one is coming. In the same way, you must train your mind through habits that strengthen your resilience. Meditation to quiet the noise, journaling to understand your thoughts, routines that bring order to your day. Each small act of discipline builds a fortress inside you where emotions cannot easily overthrow the throne of reason. But discipline without self-awareness is blind effort. You must know yourself, the triggers that spark your anger, the fears that hold you back, the insecurities that whisper lies in your mind. Self-awareness is the mirror you must dare to look into, even when it reveals the sides of you that are uncomfortable to face. Too many people wander through life, unaware of why they act the way they do, unaware that the chains that bind them are not on the outside but within. The man who explodes in rage does not realize he is a slave to his wounds. The woman who retreats in fear does not realize she is chained by her doubts. Without self-awareness, emotions manipulate you from the shadows, and you never even see the strings being pulled. To cultivate self-awareness, you must become an observer of your own life. Watch your thoughts as they rise. Notice your body when anger builds, your breath quickens, your muscles tighten. Observe your mind when fear whispers, your vision narrows, your heart races. Pay attention when sadness takes hold, your energy fades, your perspective darkens. In that observation, you gain knowledge, and knowledge grants you choice. The moment you see the pattern, you are no longer trapped by it. Think of the mind as a wild horse. Without discipline, it runs wherever it pleases, sometimes into danger, sometimes into ruin. Without self-awareness, you don't even realize you're being dragged behind it. But with both discipline and awareness, you learn to take the reins, to guide that power where you choose. The horse does not lose its strength. It becomes useful. Your emotions do not disappear. They become your allies. Every person who has risen to greatness has trained their mind. They understood that if they did not command their emotions would command them. The warrior disciplines himself, not because he enjoys hardship, but because he knows comfort breeds weakness. The thinker studies himself not because he loves the shadows, but because he knows the shadows hold the truth of his strength. You too must commit to this training, not once, not sometimes, but daily. When you build the habit of discipline, you create stability. When you sharpen the blade of self-awareness, you create clarity. Together, they form the shield and sword you need to stand firm when your emotions attack. Without them, you are tossed by every wave, ruled by every impulse, enslaved by every passing feeling. But with them, you stand like a mountain, unshaken, unmoved, unbroken. Every emotion you feel carries energy. Anger, fear, sadness, even doubt, all of them are filled with raw power. The tragedy is that most people let this power become a chain that binds them instead of fuel that propels them. They let anger consume them until it destroys relationships. They let fear control them until opportunities pass by. They let sadness bury them until they stop living fully. But those same emotions, when transformed, can ignite growth, strength, and resilience. The key is not to silence what you feel, but to channel it into a greater purpose. Take anger, for instance. Left uncontrolled, it is fire that burns everything in its path. But when channeled, it is fire in an engine that drives you forward. Anger can give you the strength to confront injustice, the determination to push through obstacles, the refusal to accept mediocrity. It is not about denying the anger, but about asking, how can I use this energy to build instead of destroy? The greatest movements in history were born from righteous anger, anger that was directed into change, into progress, into a better tomorrow. Now consider fear. Most see it as a prison, but fear is also a compass. It points to the places where you must grow, to the challenges that shape you, to the unknown that will stretch your limits. Fear signals that you are stepping into territory that matters. The person who runs from fear never learns what they are capable of, but the one who uses fear as fuel discovers strength they never imagined. Fear can sharpen your focus, heighten your awareness, and drive you to prepare more, to learn more, to rise higher. The key is to stop letting fear paralyze you and start letting it propel you. Sadness, too, holds power. At first glance, it feels heavy, suffocating, like a weight you cannot bear. But sadness is also depth. It digs into the soul, carving space for compassion, empathy, and wisdom. The person who has known sorrow often becomes the one most capable of lifting others. The one who sees beyond the surface, the one who understands what truly matters. Sadness can fuel creativity, reflection, and purpose. It can awaken you to the value of the moments you once took for granted, to the beauty of life, even in its fragility. Even doubt, which so many despise, can be turned into a teacher. Doubt can challenge you to prepare more thoroughly, to strengthen your foundation, to push beyond complacency. Without doubt, arrogance blinds you. With doubt, you question, you refine, you sharpen. Doubt only becomes destructive when you let it silence you. When used correctly, it forces you to build unshakable confidence rooted in truth, not illusion. Every emotion is energy. That energy does not vanish. It must go somewhere. If you let it control you, it becomes destructive. If you master it, it becomes transformative. Like electricity, it can either burn the house down or light up the world. The choice rests in your hands. You can let emotions become the chains that hold you back, or you can convert them into the fuel that drives your growth. Think about the people you admire most, not because their lives were easy, but because they took pain, struggle, and fear and turned them into power. They turned wounds into wisdom, failures into lessons, and emotions into engine. They did not escape their emotions. They learned to ride their waves, to harness their force, to let the storm push them closer to greatness. Your emotions are not curses. They are gifts, raw and untamed. They're the winds that can either capsize your ship or carry you to distant horizons. The difference lies in whether you grip the wheel and steer, or whether you let the winds toss you into the rocks. When you understand this, every emotion, no matter how dark, becomes a stepping stone, not a stumbling block.